You ever have that moment when you realize your marriage went from, I can't keep my hands off you, to, did you pay the internet bill? Yeah, that moment hit me like a brick. Pam and I have been married for 5 years. No kids. Just two adults trying to build a life together. And we were doing well. Really well, actually. We busted our asses working, saved up for a house, stacked up a decent financial cushion. The whole, we're responsible adults now package. But somehow, in the middle of all that success, something broke. It started subtly. At first, it was just less frequent. Then it became rare. And then, one day, it was gone entirely. Out of nowhere, Pam hit me with, I just don't feel like it anymore. Now, I'm not an idiot. People go through rough patches, stress, exhaustion, whatever. I get it. I told myself, it's just a phase. It'll pass. It did not pass. Weeks turned into months. I tried to be patient. I asked if something was wrong. She said no. I suggested counseling. She laughed. And every time I brought it up, the response was the same. It's my body, and my desires are the only thing that matter. Now, I've always believed in respecting boundaries. But a marriage is a two-way street, right? Apparently not in Pam's book. According to her, my needs, my feelings, irrelevant. It wasn't a conversation, it was a decree. And her decree was, no more fun for Chester. At first, I thought maybe she was just going through some internal struggles. Maybe she needed space. But then one evening, while using her laptop to check my email, because my phone was dead, I made a discovery. The browser history was full of interesting reads. How to control your husband without him realizing it. Men should learn to live without intimacy. Why saying no makes you more powerful in a relationship. Teaching him discipline, the art of denial. I sat there staring at the screen, my stomach sinking. So this wasn't just stress. This wasn't just a phase. This was intentional. My wife, my partner, was actively studying how to manipulate me, and suddenly it all made sense. The coldness, the dismissiveness, the way she shut down any discussion about our problems. This wasn't just neglect. This was by design. I closed the laptop, sat back, and exhaled. I didn't know whether to laugh or start packing my bags. All right, so let's recap. My wife had essentially declared herself supreme leader of our marriage, where her wants and needs were the only ones that mattered. Meanwhile, I, a mere mortal, was expected to nod, smile, and embrace my new life as a celibate ATM with no opinions. And you know what I did? I tried. I really tried. I suggested conversations, real ones, where two adults sit down and communicate like reasonable human beings. She accused me of being obsessed with sex. I offered couples therapy. She said, "You're pressuring me. That's emotional abuse." I even tried to ignore the problem for a while, thinking maybe time would fix things. Spoiler alert, it did not. Instead, Pam started throwing scenes, big ones, dramatic Oscar-worthy performances that involved tears, wild accusations, and the occasional storming out of the room like she was in a soap opera. One night, I asked, calmly, politely, if she even wanted to fix our relationship. Her response? "This relationship is fine. You're the problem, Chester. You're selfish, entitled, and obsessed with your gross masculine desires. You don't respect me at all. You only care about one thing." Now, I was willing to be patient, to listen, to work through things. But let me tell you, it is very hard to have a productive conversation when someone is standing in your living room, shouting like a villain, monologuing in a Marvel movie. Pam had convinced herself that she was a noble warrior fighting against the oppressive forces of me and men and biology. But hey, I was still hanging in there, still hoping this was just some phase, maybe a stress reaction or something. Then came the meetings. She started attending these empowerment groups. Sounded great at first. I'm all for strong, independent women. But then she started bringing home ideas. Weird ideas. She made new friends. Angry, bitter women who spoke about men the way most people talk about serial killers. Now, I don't mean your standard men should help more with housework kind of feminism. I mean full-on conspiracy level men are parasites rhetoric. She started saying things like, women are the backbone of society. Without us, men would be living in caves eating dirt. I laughed. Bad move. She scowled. You think that's funny? You're part of the problem, Chester. You don't even respect me. I sighed and did what any reasonable husband would do. I tried humor. Babe, I respect women so much, I might be the greatest feminist of all time. I love women. Women are the best. That's why I married one. Hell, I even think you're the most beautiful creature on the planet. That's why I want you to be happy. And I'm worried about you. This looks like depression or some kind of mental health crisis. Her face, pure disgust. There is nothing wrong with me. The real problem is you. You don't think with your brain, Chester. You think with your little wrinkly sausage. And that, my friends, was the moment I realized my wife had officially lost her goddamn mind. A week had passed since Palm proudly declared that my brain was located somewhere south of my waistline. 7 long days of awkward silence, tense meals, and me trying to figure out how the hell we got here. I was still holding on to the idea that maybe this was fixable, that maybe my wife wasn't completely off the rails and we just needed the right kind of help. So I did what any desperate, self-respecting husband would do. I consulted a professional, actually, 2 professionals. First, I talked to a psychologist, a regular one, someone who deals with communication issues, marriage struggles, all that jazz. He listened patiently, took notes, then leaned forward and said, Chester, this sounds like a power struggle more than anything else. She's setting the terms, and you're expected to follow them blindly. But intimacy in marriage is about partnership, not dictatorship. Okay, that made sense. But why was she doing this? Enter specialist number 2, a sexologist. I knew damn well Palm would never in a million years agree to see one, so I decided to get creative. I set up a small, discreet hidden camera in the living room, not for some shady reason, but just so I could go back and analyze her behavior later. And then I invited Dr. Lewis, a respected sexologist, over for a simple, calm, rational conversation. When I walked into the house with Dr. Lewis, Palm was already on edge. She took one look at him and narrowed her eyes. Who the hell is this? Babe, this is Dr. Lewis. He specializes in relationships and, oh, for God's sake, Chester, you're bringing a doctor into our home? Are you insane? I opened my mouth to respond, but she was already in full meltdown mode. You're pathetic. You actually think I have a problem? You think you can just drag some random expert in here to fix me? Oh my God, this is embarrassing. Dr. Lewis, to his credit, remained completely unfazed. He calmly said, Mrs. Palm, I'm not here to fix anyone. I'm simply here to help both of you navigate. Shut up, nerd, she snapped. I buried my face in my hands. Step 1, humiliate Chester. Step 2, humiliate the expert. Now, before things could escalate further, Dr. Lewis tried a different approach. Look, Pam, no pressure here, but do you think we could have an open discussion about why intimacy has become a point of conflict? That's when the shift happened. Palm's entire demeanor changed. The anger was still there, but suddenly she smirked. And then, with the confidence of a Bond villain revealing their master plan, she said, Fine. Since my husband is so obsessed with this, I have a solution. I braced myself. If Chester is really struggling so much without intimacy, he can just get it somewhere else. Excuse me? See, I'm a supportive wife. I'm giving my husband permission to release his stress with some other desperate woman. Problem solved. Dr. Lewis blinked. I'm pretty sure he had never heard that one before. Me? I just stared at her, trying to process what the hell she was saying. So, just to clarify, I said slowly, you're okay with me going out and meeting another woman? Like a date? She crossed her arms and scoffed. Oh, please. Men are all the same. You all just want one thing. So go ahead, darling, get it out of your system. Just don't ever come crying to me about it again. I looked at Dr. Lewis. Dr. Lewis looked at me. Neither of us knew what to say. Palm? She just grabbed her phone, leaned back on the couch, and started scrolling as if she hadn't just given me the green light to go cheat on her. Well, that conversation was over. Dr. Lewis and I exchanged one last, deeply awkward glance before quietly making our way to the door. As I stepped outside, I took a deep breath and exhaled. I had come into that conversation hoping for a breakthrough. What I got instead was permission. And something told me this was far from over. 2 days after the permission incident, I found myself sitting in Dr. Lewis's office, watching the recorded footage like it was the Zapruder film of my marriage. Dr. Lewis sat beside me, arms crossed, occasionally scribbling notes. I just sat there, replaying the moment my wife casually handed me a free pass to cheat over and over again. "So, what do you think?" I asked, rubbing my temples. Dr. Lewis exhaled. "Chester, I'm going to be honest with you. Your wife's behavior isn't just about intimacy. There's something deeper going on." "Like what? Some kind of deep-seated trauma? A hidden affair? A secret cult initiation?" I half-joked. "Hard to say," he admitted. "But what's clear is that she's playing a game, and she wants you to lose." I stared at the screen, watching Palm's smug expression as she dismissed me like I was some idiot begging for scraps. "So, what do I do?" Dr. Lewis hesitated. "Normally, I'd advise communication, therapy, finding common ground. But with this level of manipulation, Chester, you're dealing with someone who wants control, and right now, she thinks she has it." I leaned back in my chair, thinking. For months, I had tried everything: patience, logic, compromise. Nothing worked. So, if Pam wanted me to go out and release my stress, then fine, I'd do it. And I'd take this entire ridiculous situation to its absolute limit, just to see where it led. If you ever need a reminder that the universe has a sense of humor, try downloading a dating app after being out of the game for years. I wasn't even trying that hard. I figured I'd grab a drink with someone, have a meaningless conversation, maybe regain a bit of dignity. But then I met her, Roxy. Roxy was fun, and not in the wild and reckless way. She was just light. No emotional landmines, no hidden agendas, no weird feminist power struggles. She had a contagious laugh, a wicked sense of humor, and the ability to make even the dumbest conversations entertaining. I told her my situation in the least insane way possible. Her response? She snorted into her margarita and said, "So let me get this straight. Your wife basically kicked you out of your own marriage and thinks she's won?" I nodded. She smirked. "Wow. She's in for a hell of a surprise." That was the night I remembered what it felt like to just be. No tension, no guilt, no walking on eggshells, just existing. And for the first time in years, I felt free. It didn't take long for the storm to hit. One evening I was sitting in my apartment, yes, my apartment since I had officially moved out, when my phone blew up with an ungodly amount of messages from Palm. At first, I ignored them. Then I got curious. Big mistake. Because the moment I answered, I was met with a full-volume, theatrical-level meltdown. "You cheated on me!" I actually had to pull the phone away from my ear. "What?" I asked, blinking in confusion. "Don't you what me, Chester? I know about your little affair. I know everything." "Ah." So she finally found out about Roxy. Honestly, I wasn't even hiding it. Unlike her, I wasn't in the business of playing mind games. "So, let me get this straight," I said, trying not to laugh. "You, the same woman who literally told me to go release stress elsewhere, is now mad that I did exactly that?" "Don't twist my words," she shrieked. I pinched the bridge of my nose. "I don't have to twist them, Pam. I remember exactly how you said it." Silence. Oh, that hit a nerve. Then she shifted tactics. "You're a disgusting, selfish pig. You never respected me. You only ever thought about one thing. I should have known you were weak." Ah, the classic insult him until he folds strategy. "You do realize this entire situation exists because of you, right?" I asked. "You refused therapy, refused conversation, refused intimacy. Hell, you even refused acknowledging reality. But the second I actually do what you literally told me to do, now suddenly I'm the bad guy?" More silence. Then she dropped the bombshell. "I'm divorcing you, Chester. You're a cheater and a liar. And guess what? Since you're the one who broke our marriage, I'll be expecting compensation for all the emotional damage you caused me." I laughed. Out loud. Probably not the smartest move, but come on, how could I not? "Compensation?" I echoed. "For what? Following your instructions? You think you're so smart, huh? Well, in the eyes of the court, I am the victim here, and you're about to pay for what you did." Oh, now I saw the game. She never actually wanted me to cheat. She wanted to trap me. She thought I'd eventually crack, have a meltdown, beg for her attention, or, at the very least, screw up in a way that would make me legally responsible for ruining our marriage. Too bad for her, I came prepared. If you ever want to know if someone has been plotting something for a long time, watch how they react when they finally get to execute their plan. Pam was thriving. The moment she officially filed for divorce, she transformed into a woman on a mission. She hired a high-powered attorney, started wearing power suits, and strutted around like a villain in a courtroom drama. She wasn't devastated. She wasn't sad. No, she was excited. This wasn't a reaction to my so-called betrayal. This was a strategy. And me? Well, I wasn't exactly losing sleep over it. I hired my own attorney, stayed calm, and continued enjoying my life. Because while Pam was busy orchestrating her grand revenge, I was spending my free time with Roxy. Roxy, who didn't expect me to read her mind. Roxy, who didn't treat every conversation like a battlefield. Roxy, who laughed easily, loved tacos, and never turned life into a power struggle. The contrast was staggering. When the big day finally came, I was ready. Pam walked in looking victorious, like a general stepping onto the battlefield. She had her legal team, her perfectly rehearsed speech, and I could already see the headlines playing in her head. "Poor betrayed wife demands justice from cheating husband." She was expecting me to be defensive, maybe even desperate. What she wasn't expecting was me being 10 steps ahead. When it was my turn to speak, I calmly laid everything out. I explained how I had tried to save the marriage. I detailed how I had suggested therapy, open discussions, and professional guidance. I pointed out that Pam had refused every attempt at a solution. And then I pulled out the video. Pam's face froze. She had no idea I had recorded that conversation. The moment the judge pressed play, the entire courtroom got to hear her own voice, loud and clear. "If Chester is struggling so much without intimacy, he can just get it somewhere else." Followed by, "Go ahead, darling, get it out of your system." The room went silent. Pam's lawyer looked like he wanted to die on the spot. The judge rubbed his temples. He asked my psychologist, who had analyzed the video, to give his professional opinion. The psychologist calmly explained that this wasn't a case of cheating, but rather a deliberate, calculated manipulation attempt. I sat back, relaxed, while Pam's entire case collapsed. After hours of legal back and forth, the judge delivered his ruling. All assets would be split 50-50. Neither party would receive alimony. No further claims would be considered. It was the cleanest, fairest outcome possible. And me? I was thrilled. I didn't want revenge. I didn't need to win. I just wanted to be done. Half of everything? Perfect. I could rebuild. I could start fresh. But Pam was livid. She wanted everything. She wanted me destroyed. She wanted me begging. Instead, she walked out with only half, fuming, her master plan blown to pieces. I walked out free. Free of the constant battles, free of the exhausting manipulation, free of her. And for the first time in years, I felt light. Life post-divorce? Fantastic. Roxy and I spent our days eating at every taco joint in town, taking spontaneous road trips, and just enjoying life. No drama, no power struggles, no walking on eggshells. Just pure, uncomplicated happiness. And then, something interesting happened. One afternoon, while mindlessly scrolling through the news, I saw a headline that nearly made me spit out my coffee. "Corporate scandal rocks. Senior executive accused of workplace manipulation and coercion." I clicked faster than I've ever clicked in my life, And guess what? The executive in question? Palm's former boss. Apparently, this guy had been engaging in inappropriate relationships with multiple female employees, promising them promotions, bonuses, and career advantages, only to discard them once he got what he wanted. Sound familiar? I decided to dig a little deeper. A few days later, I reached out to an old acquaintance, one of Palm's former co-workers, who just so happened to be part of the internal investigation. Over a couple of beers, he spilled the whole story. "Oh yeah, dude, your ex? She was totally caught up in that mess." "What do you mean?" I asked, trying not to let my face betray my reaction. He sighed. "She was one of them. The boss played her like everyone else, made a bunch of promises, led her on, then left her in the dust. And when she realized she'd been played, she lost it. Turns out, Palm had been sleeping with her boss behind my back. And it wasn't just a fling. She thought she was securing her future, promotions, perks, special treatment. But instead of getting everything she was promised, she got screwed over, twice. When she finally caught on that she was just another disposable pawn in his little game, she tried to fight back. That's when things got ugly. He blacklisted her from major projects. He cut her bonuses. He wanted to fire her. It went on for months. It was just about the time Pam started acting out in our marriage. But here's the kicker. Instead of owning up to her choices, instead of taking responsibility for what she had done, she turned her anger toward me. Because in her mind, it wasn't her fault. It wasn't her boss's fault. It was men. All men. And I was just the closest, easiest target. As I sat there absorbing all of this, a strange sense of relief washed over me. Because now, everything made sense. The sudden disinterest, the obsession with control, the weird feminist nonsense she had latched onto, the entire divorce strategy. She wasn't just trying to punish me. She was trying to punish all men for what one man had done to her. And I had been collateral damage. But the difference between me and her boss, I actually cared about her. I never lied to her. I never betrayed her. And yet I was the one she wanted to see suffer. Funny how that works. As for what happened to Palm after all of this, who knows? She changed jobs, moved cities. Maybe she started over. Maybe she found a new target. But I walked away with my sanity intact, my finances secure, and a damn good woman by my side. If you enjoyed the story, please subscribe to the channel. I wish you a great mood and good luck.